know, you touched on something very, very critical to us as Africans. We have been wired, our parents, our great grandparents, when they were trying to achieve, they had to have something academic.
Yes.
Anything else that wasn't academic was not of value. So when you have that paper, it feels to most of us that that is the highest achievement. Whereas in your fields of business, in your fields of community service, you are already at the top.
Yeah.
Because you are doing the practical side.
Yes.
That which the class is teaching you, you're already doing.
And you know, there was a conversation, this is opening up so many thoughts. There was a conversation, I forget where I was, but it was in one of these circles where we have youth mentorship programs. And they were talking about why our schools, specifically in Africa, they don't, how here, you know, here they teach you a lot of technical. You get into, you move from grade 8 and then you move to the next stage where you're practically being taught about business, how to be an entrepreneur, how to do whatever. Yet for us, the way we've been taught and understand about education and how to attain, we're just taught stay in the classroom, be about the book, but we have less of the practicality of how to be within that business. And so we find that when we come into the Western world, then we are 2 or 3 steps behind our peers and our age mates, because for them, then grade 8, they're already learning about business, they're already learning about how to become how to communicate in that language of being out there in those spaces. When we are chasing the paper of, oh no, my parents are actually counting along with me. You've done all levels, you're going to A, after A you go to college, after college you do a master's, after master's you do a PhD, but then there is no training us in how to actually be in that professional setting where you're mingling and being acquainted with the CSOs, the CEOs, you're being mentored, you're being sharpened, you're volunteering, you're in the internships. Because remember, we never grew up in the whole part of internships.
No, not at all.
You know, so now when we come here, we start to see how, okay, so I have to go and intern, which is why it's a problem. Most times, even especially with us in international development, in Canada we don't have that problem because you volunteered for say when we started. It's not even a thought, because here there is this culture of you volunteer to gain experience and people understand what that does. It gives you the experience, it puts you one foot in. But where we come from, we were never taught.
Is it because of poverty? When you finish school, you gotta earn some money, and you gotta earn some big money too. So if you waste your time going to spend hours just doing something for free.
Yeah, like
but it's not doing something for free because you gain something.
Well, yeah, but here's how we as your parents and grandparents look at it.
Yes.
There's nothing, you are gaining, yes, on that level. But when we are looking at you, you're still broke.
Yes, let's just say you're giving your time to go and volunteer.
And nothing. Where's the money?
Yeah, where's the money?
Show us the money.
Yeah. So you see, it's very different, because in our spaces we come a lot of, you find people that are doing PhDs, that are doing masters and whatever, they're telling you, oh, I'm an intern. When you look at them, you're like, you're an intern. Where we're coming from, at that level you should be working and making money.
Yeah.
Right? So it's interesting, and I think the paradigm has to shift, especially in the African context, and how maybe we can move our thought process forward. It becomes, I think it's changing though, because I'm finding a lot of young Africans who are in the diaspora, they are catching on. Maybe it's the Gen Zs now, because they think differently. They are catching on to how things are becoming. I just had when I was in New York for the GA, one of my neighbor's daughters, they're from Zambia. I'm sitting in front of this 22-year-old and she's telling me, Auntie, I'm starting a business, and I met with the assistant whoever who filmed Grey's Anatomy and Amsterdam, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, at 21, I can just imagine at 21 if I told my mom that I don't have a job and I'm just staying in some apartment in New York, and me and my friends are coming up with these ideas, we're just walking around with the ideas, and we want to meet. I'm looking at her, she's talking about all these big names, like I want to meet the VP of Google, and I'm thinking to myself, how are you even going to achieve that? But for her, they just think differently, because they are go-getters. They are raised in a different time where they don't believe there's any barriers. You know, they go for what they want, they go for what they believe in. And they also are not tied to, not saying that there's anything wrong with school, with sitting in front of the desk and attaining, because I'm a product of that, where I got the doctorate not from sitting down and getting that PhD from whatever. It's an honorary based on somebody saw the work that I'm doing and they felt, oh, she actually deserves that. So they work in that mentality to say, I'm gonna have the school thing going, but at the same time, I'm going to train myself to have a business, work for myself, be an entrepreneur. I don't have to wait for someone to pay me, you know. So it's kind of interesting. Then I tend to wonder if we were to have right now here have a conversation, take some young people that are in the continent at this point and have never been exposed to how the diaspora works, and then put these Gen Zs who either maybe first generation or second generation children of Africans, how that conversation is going to relate. It will be quite interesting.
It actually will be interesting, but the way most of us, and I think we're still raising our children that way, for most of us Africans, the way they would be thinking is stay on the book, get that a degree, don't even waste your time going to look for a job so you can get the practical experience. Stay on the book. How do we get ourselves to shift to say that yes, stay on the book, it's good, but how do you gain the rest of the experience that will expose you to that path that will lead you to your first business? How do we open up? How do we embrace it? How do we even respect the child who says, you know what, I'm okay with my first degree, but I see that if I continue to cut the grass, my business in landscaping is going to just catapult me to a different level. How do we accept that child to say, you're good with your diploma from a community college, pursue your dream as the landscaper, pursue your dream as the fashion designer, even without going to fashion school. You have the talent, you have the ability to be
self-taught.
Go do it. How do we move? How do we encourage our children to do that?
It's quite interesting, because even the whole thing about the book, from our parents, your generation, it was also Kuzi. I don't know if you agree with this. It wasn't go to school and study fashion or study whatever. It was go to school and be a lawyer.
And
be a doctor, be a this and this. So I remember when I told my older brother, because my background is in accounting, right? And I remember when I told my brother, oh, so yeah, I'm switching my studies. I'm going to go into nonprofit, political science, and social work, whatever. And he said to me, what? Nonprofit? You're not going to be making money. What are you going to nonprofit? He was so mad. It was unbelievable, because in the context of our background as Africans or whatever we believe, you had to be an accountant, because somehow also in the family it gave you that respect. It gave you, this person is in business. So when you came and said, I'm running a charity, everybody's looking like, you're gonna be begging for money. There's no money over there. Who gives you money in charity? And for
you
me,
go to Canada to beg?
Yes, exactly. And that was the thing. Is like, so you're going to leave an accounting job. You've done 15 years of this, and now you're telling us that you want to go into a non-profit. What is the profit in that? So these conversations are very interesting to us Africans. But I find that what I've learned, based on how I've been able to navigate, and I'm still navigating it, and when people look at some of us, they think you've made it, you're at the top. Thank you for that. But I find that every day we continue to learn. I think networking is what has gotten us to where we are, because you sit around some of these tables, somebody else shares an idea or a thought that you never would have come across, and then you take action on it. Or somebody will come and introduce me to you, and then the next thing you know somebody, and if I share what it is that I'm passionate about or what I want to do, it helps to open up those doors. And that's how I've been able to navigate some of these spaces, because I've gained that confidence to speak up about what it is that I'm envisioning to do. But networking is very important, but also mentorship. I'm here because somebody mentored me, and because that mentorship was also a vice versa relationship, as in I understood why I wanted those relationships, and I think that's where we need to really pin it down to.
Maybe you could also speak about what you do, because for me, as your parent, I actually didn't understand it. I'm like, what? Raising money for where? Doing what? You know? Is that what you spent your time doing at school? Because it's something that is not understood. But when you talk in terms of the amount of services that are provided, from the money that you raise, from the contacts that you have, from the global networking that is happening, that's when you realize that this is much more than someone going to be a nurse like me. Not that nurses are not important, we are, by the way. But for the hospital to run,
there has to be funds
there has
raised.
to be funds raised by Kuzai
Yeah.
and her team, and for someone to be encouraged to look at a global way of looking at jobs, giving back to the community. We have to be able, as Africans, to open our eyes and shift from having teachers and nurses and doctors and lawyers.
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of people who come over from crossover industries into the nonprofit sector. I mean, in my experience, I spent 15 years raising funds from grassroots organizations to international NGOs, and working with various donors, from individual donors to corporate donors. Now I work with legacy donors, and there's a lot of opportunity to learn various aspects of business while you're working in fundraising. So there's a lot of opportunities, but to Cindy's point, networking is key. Through my program in my executive MBA, I have an executive coach, and she was emphasizing the fact that the importance of networking, having one strong meeting a month makes a big impact, because when you're comfortable, you don't feel as motivated to go make those connections. But when you have a job loss, when you're worried about the stability of the organization where you work, you feel pressure to have those connections, make it a natural part of what you do. One a month, it really isn't that much of a stretch. But when you need a job or you need a connection, you've already established those relationships and it feels more natural.
Yeah. It's I think it's almost like a shift, a paradigm shift in how our children in Africa are educated. Because they never get to meet a Cindy. This is why you guys are important. You need to be able to say, look, there's a whole continent there of young girls that have so many skills that end up not being able to give back because they don't have a mentor. They don't see anybody who is like them, who is going to say whatever you are thinking about being that businesswoman, about putting your small backyard business on a higher platform is actually right. They've no one to push them. They don't feel or see anybody like them doing it. This is where you guys come in, because there's something real strong about seeing somebody who looks like you achieving.
100%. Yeah. 100%. So I think where is the connect then? Where do we put the connect? Because as you're saying, it's not the everydays where you would find yourself in a room with the Kudzais who have the experience in working on global fundraising initiatives and understanding the impact it has on what is happening out there. Then also the intersectionality of private sector working with public sector, government and all that and so forth, because we often try to separate all these things. But how then do we make sure that, that girl who's in somewhere in Zimbabwe or in Ghana or anywhere else has access to what we have access to, and we can download, we can connect with them, we can help to mentor. I think for me, that's where I always find there's a big gap. How do we put these dots together and make sure that even when they come across us, it's not just a matter of they've come across us and then that's it, it's just for that moment, but nothing really materializes and we don't see the the fruits of those kind of those kind of meetings happening. So I'm always just when I go into the rooms, at least for me, that's what I always try to think of. As in, if I meet kayasgogo today, how do I mature that relationship? If I'm thinking I'm probably not going to be able to see her again in the next 3 months or whatever, but how do I make sure that I make it materialize to something where I want to learn something from what she's doing, and then it inspires me in my own journey, and I can transfer that whole experience to somebody else. That's the big thing that I think. I don't know.
Here's a challenge to you guys, and I'm gonna give it to you guys. And it's not necessarily for here, but when you get on the continent, would you be willing every time you take a visit to the continent, be able to meet up with one or two girls, have a sit down with them, and let them ask you questions? And most of us from the African continent, our children do not know how to come up with questions. Would you be able to sit and have a conversation with them, and be able to make them comfortable enough that they believe they can achieve by either asking you questions or you guys having just a conversation with them, and see and hear what they think and how they feel? Because sometimes we are maybe making assumptions about what these kids may know or may not know.
True.
And by just being able to meet and have a sense and have that connection with them, well, it's something that I think maybe on your visits, you do that. Yeah, because most of the children, I know they get excited when they come, when you guys come. They're excited to see somebody who's coming from America, from Canada, from the UK. But would you take 10 minutes or from your time when you visit to have a conversation with the girl child? Maybe the boys too, the young boys. But more for the girl child, because we want them to get redirected in their minds that they are powerful, they are strong. They don't have to just get out of school or quit school and get a husband, have a baby. Focus on being independent, mind and also financially. But sometimes it takes someone to understand, have a feel of what the child is, what's their ambition, what are their where do they see the restrictions in them achieving. So when you come in, don't just come in, talk to our girl children.
So intentionally make ourselves available. That's what the key message is.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
And it serves a purpose for yourself because it's so rejuvenating hearing the ideas of young people.
Absolutely.
No matter, especially when they're reaching for the stars, because you're amazed by their creativity. And if they're inspired and supported, anything is possible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great challenge. I'm already thinking about it. I'm like, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Think about it. The many times that even for me, many times that have been going back and forth to the continent, I know there's someone who's looking forward to seeing me.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because they are impressed about me having been able to get out and come out here and charter a new course for myself.
Yes.
Yeah. But I know I've had time to speak to the girls because I'm now on the continent.
Yeah.
Any young child, especially the girls that comes through my hands to my house, I take that opportunity to speak, to hear them, to find out what their ambitions are, and to not offer them a specific direction, but to guide them that the world is open. You should be willing to take a chance. Be willing to find women like yourselves. Ask questions. Be bold. There is no question that is stupid.
No, nothing. Yeah.
But I've made it an effort that when I see a child come through, we have a conversation. I try and stimulate them to think, to ask questions, to find out.
Yeah.
So would you be able to do that?
Oh, most definitely. I'll take you up on that challenge. I'll do my best. I can't promise how we're gonna be able to do it, but no, it's very important. And for me, I come across a lot of young people. I work a lot with youth in the spaces that I'm able to be in. So you get a lot of you can tell that there's that hunger where a lot of young people in the continent want to know, they want to understand how you've made it where you are, because they also want to get there. I've had so many encounters with a lot of these young people, even most recently in some places where I've gone, and then thanks to social media, as you're saying, there are so many of them that want to meet you, where I've gone into a room. It just happened a couple of days ago at the UN, and this young man walked up to me. He's from Ghana, and he's like, I can't believe that I'm meeting you because I've followed you for such a long time, and I just kept wondering, where am I going to ever see this lady? And here you are, you walked into a room and I have direct access to you.
Yeah.
And I was flattered. I said, you follow me? And he's like, yes, I follow you and everything. I go, and then he says he's in international relations and so forth. So we struck this conversation, and it was just so refreshing to hear somebody say, I'm a young man and I'm so inspired by what you're doing. I just want to connect with you because I'd like to follow on what you're doing, and maybe I can learn something. Simple, standard conversation, and so this is how we make ourselves available. Another one was sitting at a meeting. We finished the meeting, and because you never know who's around you, so you go in there, and in these meetings it's almost like speed networking, really. And you're just sitting next to her. I'm waiting for whatever to finish, but in the room I'm identifying, oh, there's a cabinet minister from Canada, because I'm also trying to figure out whom I can network and still that 1 minute to talk to. I need to speak to that woman because in what I'm doing in Toronto, I'd like for her to know, blah, blah, blah. So we come off and we walk out, and I noticed that no one was really talking to her as much. So we struck a conversation, and then she says to me, so where are you going after this? And then I say, oh, I'm going to another event here and there, whatever. And then she says to me, oh, yes, I heard about that event. I'd like to get in. I came here because I was doing the SDG weekend action, da, 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 da. And then she says to me, can I have your card? Maybe I can connect with you. So I give her my card, and then she says, can I enter? No, and then she says, can we take a picture? We take a picture, and thanks to iPhones and the network and everything, she's like, I'll airdrop, or I will scan your WhatsApp, whatever, and then I'll send you the picture. So I say, scan my number. So she scans, and then guess what? I've never met this girl. She actually had my number. Ask me how she has my number. She had my number because when I was working at the AU as a consultant, she's one of the youth network from supposedly Cameroon that I recruited, and I had no idea. And I mentored her group. And then she says to me, oh my gosh, you are Cindy from the AU. And then she said to me, thanks to you, I was now able to work with my group, and because of how you dealt with us, you never treated us like we had no value, we didn't know what you're doing. After we worked with you, because I think we worked with them for like 8 weeks or so at a time, we're doing intergenerational dialogues where we're connecting them with their leaders in their country. And she said, because of your leadership and how you made us feel, that group from Cameroon, and I'm trying to think, what group from Cameroon at this point, I can't even remember. And then she's like, but yes, we had your WhatsApp number because we had to talk about things with you on WhatsApp, and you were so responsive the whole time. Trust me, I did not even recall. But just hearing that, I was like, wow, look at how sometimes we don't notice, or we don't know how far the impact goes in just the connectivity we have with young people. And then to see her in New York because of what we planted
in her. Yeah.
For them, and it inspired them over 2 years ago when I was at the AU, and I walked away not even having like an idea, and then here we are, just coincidentally I'm thinking, let me just give her my number, we can connect after this, we get to know each other. And then she remembers, she's like, oh my gosh, this is you. Now I'm gonna take this picture, go show it to them that I finally met that lady who helped.
You touched on something that's really critical, that these girl children, especially our African children, may have the sense that they are not valued. Nobody recognizes them. Nobody feels or sees them as anything. that they can achieve anything.
And you know
But
why I
when
think
they
that
see
is?
you,
I think, and I've encountered this because I look younger, number one. When I walk into the room, I don't look my age, I always look younger. And I think it's a problem with how in Africa we are, where the younger you look, you always seem like you're incapable, you don't have the value, or you don't have the knowledge, so you know what, you're being pushed aside. And I think that's what a lot of young people in the continent are trying to fight against, to say we might be young, but we also have this, we understand, we have the skills,
Yeah.
we can do the work, we have the value, we are enough. And that's why sometimes it's so hard for even in business, or our leaders have a hard time in putting them, in placing them at these decision-making tables, because they feel like young people will not contribute
nothing to
anything.
offer.
Yeah, but they have so much.
but this
So
is
much.
this is where I feel like you guys need to be to be more visible, especially to the African child, the girl African child. Not to exclude everybody else, but you know, we have had a struggle of being recognized anyway. But when they see, when we, the African mothers and the African girls, see you guys achieving, and you coming back to say, here I am, sister child, you know, you have my, I have my arm out for you to hold on, to learn. Come and sit at the table with me. Tell me what you want to know. I will also want to know
Yeah.
how I can be of guidance, to be of help to you. We don't have a voice.
Yeah.
We don't get the opportunity to be even heard. And unless and until you guys get the inroads
Yeah.
to see these girls, to be in touch with them, you know, we will always be somewhere in the back. And it's not, here's the problem with us Africans. If a child is not academically strong, if they cannot pull those A pluses and B pluses, we don't see or hear them.
Yeah.
And there's so many of those kids that will not be able to give you the A or B plus in mathematics or in biology, but they have a wealth of knowledge in their head. They have great ideas, great skills, and no one is giving them that forum, that opportunity to say, you know what, you have something. You know how to take these two pieces of metal and end up designing a lamp,
Yeah.
a cup holder. There's something there.
Yeah. Or you know how to put a piece of clothing and make it something beautiful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
But I think what also important is moving beyond the conversation, because we keep coming to the table and we talk. We can mentor, but we need to have placements, right? I think you can handhold me, but as long as you're not going to place me within where I need to be and have that introduction done to say, hey, this is the door that is opening for you, it becomes quite difficult, because you can mentor me all we want, we can have all the conversations all we want, but if I'm left outside of that door and I'm not helped to have that placement, it becomes really, really difficult. Because one, they don't have the networks, we have the networks, so Kuti might have the network in fundraising, but I will need that help to be placed within these places, within that space.
Here's the thing, we need to see and think about how we are going to bring those kids to the table
Absolutely.
so that we give them the opportunities.
Yeah.
Right?